You're listening to
I Don't Do Sci-Fi.
Episode 5. So close, you can feel their fire.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I'm Rebecca Ray, and with me are John Isles.
Hello.
And Dani Ray.
Hi!
Last time we showed Dani the 1990s CBBC series Dark Season, which Dani liked. This episode we're going to focus on 2 films from the 1960s, Doctor Who and the Daleks, and Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD. So before we get into discussing our chosen sci-fi, I want to introduce our guest for this episode, Jonathan Miles from Westlake Films. So how are you doing, Jonathan?
Well, I'm tremendously excited about looking at these 2 films. I remember as a child, and I think it was a Saturday morning, Channel 4 repeated them, and that's when I first came across them.
Ah, what period was that?
That was
Channel
in the
4.
80s, but also when I was a teenager in the 90s. The scale of them was just incredible compared to the TV series. Every year they would be repeated, and I just had to watch them, and I never got tired of them.
I don't want to hurt your feelings already, but we're not on the same page, Jonathan.
Okay.
She's warning you.
I'm warning you.
Okay.
I'm warning you that our opinions do not match.
Well, that's okay. That's nothing wrong with that, is it?
Oh no, we're going to have some episodes we do have more debate. She didn't like Rollerball, I liked it. It is early 1965 and Britain is becoming gripped by Dalekmania. Doctor Who's pepperpot-shaped foes, the Daleks have become the must-have items for toys, games and books. Watching this success unfold were American film producers Milton Subotsky and Max Rosenberg. They had founded the film company Amicus, which produced middle to low budget movies for the British market. Seeing a profitable opportunity, they obtained the rights to create a movie version of the first Dalek TV story from writer Terry Nation and the BBC. They paid the relatively low sum of £500 along with options for 2 sequels. Amicus produced the film and distributed it with British Line Films under the name AARU Films. Directed by Gordon Fleming and shot entirely at Shepperton Studios, Doctor Who and the Daleks released to audiences in the summer. Doctor Who is played by Peter Cushing, who has invented a police box-shaped time and space machine in his garden called TARDIS. Together with his granddaughter Susan and Barbara, played by Roberta Tovey and Jenny Linden, along with Barbara's boyfriend Ian, played by Roy Castle, they journey to the distant world of Skaro. There, they find a planet ruined by centuries of nuclear war, now only sparsely populated by 2 races, the Thals, a race of beautiful blonde nomads sworn to pacifism, and the Daleks, insular and violently xenophobic mutants who never leave the safety of the city or their armoured casings. The film had a strong release at the cinema and managed to capitalise on the appetite for the Daleks exactly as planned. However, critics were less enamoured and have tended towards unfavourable reviews of the production. Although praising some specific aspects such as Cushing's performance and the set work, the film was regarded as dull, hammy and lacking impact. Regardless, its theatrical success meant a bigger budget sequel was put into production. Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD was released the following summer, this time based on the second Terry Nation Dalek story scripted for the Doctor Who TV series. Peter Cushing and Roberta Tovey reprised their roles as Doctor Who and Susan, but were now joined by Jill Curzon as Doctor Who's niece Louise and Bernard Cribbins as 1960s policeman Tom Campbell. Although offering greater spectacle and special effects than the first film, the second failed to perform as well at the box office. The critical response to Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD was something of an improvement compared to Doctor Who and the Daleks, gaining middling reviews. As a result of the low takings, however, it was decided not to risk a third Dalek film. Over the years, these 2 Doctor Who films remained relatively well known to generations of children in the UK due to persistent repeats on television and numerous home media releases. A making-of documentary called Dalekmania was released to video in 1995, generating renewed interest among Doctor Who fans. However, fandom has never really decided on how it feels about these non-canonical adventures that don't fit in with the rest of the franchise.
So with the introductions done, we're going to travel back in time a few rails and listen to some moments from Dani and Rebecca watching Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Let's hear how it went. I have no idea, I haven't heard these reactions yet, so Listeners, once again, you're going to hear this before me.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Dani and I'm going to be showing us 2 films today. So our first film is called Doctor Who and the Daleks. Have you heard of this film, Dan?
Only from you guys keep saying that I'm going to be doing this.
Other than that, you've never heard of it?
No.
What do you think this film's going to be about?
Doctor Who fighting Daleks.
Okay.
I don't even know which Doctor it is. I assume it's one of the first 4.
Okay, so this film came out in 1965.
So the first.
And it's...
wait, is it the first? Would the second have been about at that point? I don't know the dates. If it's the second, I'll be happy, but if it's not, I won't be sad.
Oh, you like the second Troughton?
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, so do you think you might like this film, or what you...
No. I'm sorry, but not the way it's going.
Oh, this bodes well, listeners. Right, are you ready?
Yes. Is this going to be in colour?
Yeah.
From like 65?
Yeah. I guess it would have been a pricey film then. Oh, were you expecting black and white?
100%.
Ah.
I was right, so it's not actually
A doctor. We're introduced to the Who family. Barbara Who's boyfriend, Ian, calls around, and Grandfather Who decides to show off his new invention.
TARDIS?
It stands for time and relative dimension in space.
Oh, go inside. Go on.
So he's created the TARDIS
Yeah.
as a new invention.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's meant to be human in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dani continues to struggle to reason out the totally different continuity to the TV version of Doctor Who. Meanwhile, Ian accidentally flings the TARDIS into the far future where it arrives on a mysterious alien world.
Look at that. Oh,
Fucking hell.
What?
How clumsy is this?
Ian's clumsiness raises multiple comments.
nothing broken, lad. No. We should never know what that was, will we, Susie?
Yeah, make him feel bad. You caused it, but...
Has Dani fallen for Doctor Who's ploy to stay and explore the alien city?
Some of the fluid has run out. Have you got a spare? Oh, you don't need one. This just needs refilling with mercury. I have some in my laboratory.
He's super intelligent, but, you know... It's alright. Just needs refilling with mercury in my laboratory. Oh, wait, shit. No one knows where I should be. Yeah. But I'm just saying.
Dalek City design puzzles Dani.
These 3 doors make me laugh, as if like they go off in different ways, but it's not like any of them go straight. So, like that first right door, she walks left, she'd have gone straight into
The other door.
the other door.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they went into the left one, they went right. So they were all going in the same direction.
And poor old Ian is having a rough time trying to get into the city.
I feel like Ian's getting victimised here.
He is. I mean, technically it was Barbara who pushed him onto that lever, but he gets the blame.
They're also making him be stupid.
Yeah. The time travellers are captured. Dani can't believe the Daleks used stun rather than kill.
That doesn't feel very Dalek-esque.
What does?
They didn't just kill him on sight.
So you'd expect him to just have zapped him by now, dead.
Yeah. That's what modern Daleks do. They don't give a shit.
The party becomes ill from radiation sickness, and the Daleks allow one of them to fetch medical supplies. Of course, the youngest and most vulnerable member is chosen to go.
Yeah, let the kid do it.
So who do you think should have gone to the TARDIS to get the drugs down?
Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara wasn't even considered, was she?
No. Doctor's old and frail.
Ian was...
was fucked from Dalek steam.
But they didn't even consider Barbara, we just overlooked her. We'll just forget Barbara's there, maybe.
Yeah.
But it does seem like Barbara is happy to get her hands dirty. Quite literally.
I think I've got it.
Ugh. And the fact that she just picked it up like that.
With her hands?
Yeah, that was gross.
It didn't look nice, did it?
I'm just gonna scoop up this fucking pureed mush. Yeah, that's what we can do. But you could just say you didn't have to do it
Scoop it.
so in advance.
Yeah, because now she's going to have dirty hands till the Daleks next come over.
Yeah.
Hey, Barbara had an idea.
a shit one. No, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Poorly executed.
Any second.
And it gets worse.
Already, Barbara.
Oh,
You did not like that.
oh, sorry.
Squelch. Squelch.
Oh, no, thank you. That was unnecessary.
Barbara
Really
squelching the
yeah.
smush.
Yeah, unnecessary. Ugh.
The party succeeds in their messy jailbreak and sets about coercing the pacifist Thals to go to war with the Daleks. Dani begins to stare daggers at Doctor Who. What did you think of Doctor Who's plan to get the Thals involved?
Sly.
Sly.
I don't like the Doctor.
No. Oh, why don't you like the Doctor?
He's a selfish and foolish man who just does what he wants and doesn't care about anybody else's opinions.
And it's because of him that they're all stuck there
Yeah.
anyway in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's not just Doctor Who who's coming in for criticism. The stupid decisions of many characters has gained Dani's ire.
Oh, I could do with it, what?
Really, Ian? You've been told this is Deadly Swamp. Deadly Swamp.
But of course, Ian does it anyway. And now a Thal has vanished into the swamp water.
What the fuck has happened to him? Water was fine. It's clear. It's so clear you can see the pipes.
Yes,
But you can't see what the fuck's going on
With
where
the-
he is.
Yeah.
But there's lots of bubbles there.
And he's also decided to fill up the water in the same spot. Ian freaked out and said there's something big down there.
Yeah, on his own.
And everyone else is like, okay, cool, we'll go on ahead.
Oh, stupidity.
Maybe it's because this is made by a horror film company and horror films tend to have people do stupid things.
Probably. It's infuriating is what it is.
Ian and Barbara's mountain climbing side quest concludes with absolutely nothing to show for it. Dani begins to question what the point of it was.
Fuck me.
Dani, what have Ian and Barbara's team achieved?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
So they could have just stayed with everyone else.
Yeah.
And not lost that guy who got killed in the
Yeah.
swamp. Yeah.
And got absolutely knackered in the process as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Thals storm the city. Ian gets the Daleks to blow up their own control centre, and just like that, it's all over, and TARDIS can go home. Dani now comes to terms with this rather disappointing conclusion. Okay, Dan, so what are your thoughts on Doctor Who and the Daleks?
Shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
The Doctor's a selfish prick.
Yeah?
And I don't like him. And I know old Doctor, like the original, like, could be, but I'm just saying, he's a prick, and I don't like him. The storyline was just your generic, Daleks don't like anybody because they're xenophobic. And it's like, okay. And nothing gets, there's no achievements, there's nothing, nothing happens. It's shit. No, I'm not happy you made me watch it. So
Oh, right, okay. Was there anything you liked about it at all?
I liked the Black Dalek.
Okay, why do you like that one?
I liked the colour theme, the fact that it had gold and silver on it.
Yeah.
I liked the Daleks.
What about the other characters? Did you like Susan or Ian or Barbara?
Barbara was boring, one-dimensional.
did get
Susan
more-
was an annoying little shitbag, but
Whoa!
let's be honest, she's just like her granddad. So I mean, what do
True.
you expect? Ian, I feel sorry for him. He was victimised. He was bullied.
Blamed.
He's a poor gentleman. Really, he was a bit clumsy, and some of the things was not his fault. Some of the things were other people's fault, but he took all the blame.
He did.
I'm not having that.
What about the Thals? Any thoughts? Nothing.
Nothing.
Just nothing.
Nothing. So.
What did you think of the TARDIS console room?
Could you get any cheaper?
Oh, I liked it.
Oh.
It's very ramshackle, like you could believe almost that an old
No,
man and a little girl did it.
No. What I believe is that even though this was meant to be a cheap film studio, I believe it could have been a primary school play.
I think you're going to break Jonathan's heart when we do this
I'm really
panel.
sorry.
You're going to break him. You're going to break him, I know it.
I literally wrote in my notes, which I know I don't normally tell you in my notes, but I've literally wrote, it just feels like a Doctor Who episode. It's okay, nothing amazing or super interesting. It's typical, they're bad, we're good, one-dimensional storytelling that just, meh.
So now I'm going to show Dan our second film of today, which is called Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD.
Yay.
You sound enthusiastic.
No, because if it's going to be the same shit that I've just watched, but they're now invading Earth 2150 AD, it's going to be another. It's just going to be another Dalek story.
So you don't have high hopes for this?
No.
Okay. Any questions?
Is it by Terry Nation again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dani stares intently at policeman Tom in the cold open of the film. She feels like she has seen that actor somewhere before. Then the opening credits roll and the penny drops.
Alright, Bernard Cribbins. Which is the police guy in it.
Yeah.
That's why he looked familiar.
Ah! So you recognise Bernard Cribbins, but you didn't know it was?
Yeah. I was like, I know him from somewhere. I like seeing him in somewhere. But obviously, I'm used to seeing Bernard Cribbins old and not young.
Mm. After expressing disapproval at the Who family's kidnapping of PC Tom, Dani worries that Doctor Who is yet again up to his old tricks by sabotaging his shipmates' efforts to escape when she notices he is leaning on the metal debris Tom is desperately trying to lift.
We'll never shift this lot. There's a warehouse over there. We'll see if we can find a crowbar or something.
Of course you won't shift it. Did you not see? Doctor Who was holding it down.
Oh my God. Is this the continuing trend of him being a
dickhead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he wants to know what's happened.
The fabulous future we're in really isn't looking all that fabulous. Or futuristic.
He's dead.
Doctor? The radio.
Oh, yes. Highly advanced. Miniature antennae.
Well, that's just like a second while you're doing like high school physics. So advanced. I was actually going to say about when they first walked in, I thought, it's very 1960s looking.
But they still think Sugar Puffs will be going strong.
I mean, you say that, right?
I mean, I know
but
they are.
A, they are. And
they're not
B,
called...
can I just say something? We are in 2022 and they're doing a lot of retro, vintage marketing again. They push it.
I just realised I said 100, it's actually 200.
It's 200, yeah, you can't count, but we already know you can't count.
Thanks, though.
Welcome.
Seems like PC Tom has a bit of a backbone and Dani approves.
Well, we better investigate.
I'm enjoying, I like Troy Castle being like a little, scaredy cat who was just like cowardly in his own little way. But I like that Bernard Cribbins' character, because he's a copper, he's just like, come on, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
And then go investigate.
Well, he was the one who spotted the shoe and
was
like, oh shit, there's someone there.
So I'm liking that.
Tom nearly falls to his death out of a ruined building, and although I don't understand why, Dani thought this was a good time to tell us all something.
I'll tell you what they do like. I've noticed it in the last one and I've noticed it in this one. They like a lot of camera angles from below and a lot of bum shots. I'll just put it that way. There's a lot of bum shots. The amount of bums I've looked at and gone, okay, another bum.
A rare moment of praise from Dani for the visual effects of the Dalek saucer.
That's pretty futuristic.
You like the ship?
Yeah. Yeah, that has actually held up really well.
A prisoner being taken aboard the Dalek saucer makes an elaborate but futile escape attempt, climbing a ruined building before plummeting into a cloud of Dalek steam.
That looked painful.
It did.
It did look painful. I mean, his escape plan was abysmal. Kind of deserves it.
Where was he going?
Exactly.
And as we'll discuss later, the stunt really was painful. Dani also makes comment on the capabilities of the movie Daleks versus their TV counterparts.
Do you know what I will say about these Daleks as well, compared to the ones that from like the modern era? They've got more dexterity.
Yeah, I noticed that in the last one they're very nimble with pressing buttons and things.
Yeah. It was hard to understand them sometimes as well in the first film. It was very much like, okay, I don't know what you really said, but alright.
I just loved how they kept saying, "They're drugs," in that really deep voice.
They're drugs.
"They're drugs. Bring the drugs.
Bring the drugs."
Robo-men feeding time. Their sweet space diets prompt some discussion.
Sweets.
Yeah. What, like Skittles or something?
No, well, like jelly babies or something. Yeah. Kind of like wine gum, that small.
Yeah. At least
licorice all sorts, that kind of.
At least the Daleks are not feeding them that smush in the first film.
True. Like gross smush.
I think they might be Dolly mixture. Anyway, the action moves to the Dalek mine in Bedfordshire, where Tom lays out a Roboman and then nimbly picks him up and hides the body. Dani is unusually impressed.
Now, come on, show us where we can hide. The tool shed over there, that's your only chance.
I'm gonna say it. He's strong as Bernard Cribbins. I know the two of them carrying him, but he very much picked him up like it was a piece of paper rather than a person.
Wasn't he in the paratroopers regiment or something?
Oh, you can tell, but I'm just saying, it's just the fact that there was no effort in that. There was no, like, he literally just went, alright, picking him up. And he had the heavy end, like, he was like, alright, done.
The Cribbins is strong.
Yeah?
The smug smuggler Broccoli rubs Dani the wrong way. She's just waiting for the moment he betrays them.
Could you obtain a plan for the mine workings?
I think I might arrange that.
Again, very creepy.
Oh, you don't like the lingering shots on him and smiling and smoking?
Just the smile.
Can we trust him?
No.
The Daleks' plan for the Earth is revealed, and Dani is incredulous. But what do you think of that guy's suggestion that the Daleks are going to dig out the core of the Earth so they can pilot Earth as a giant spaceship? Do you think he's got it right and that's what the Daleks are going to do? No. Why is that?
Because it's stupid, and they've already got spaceships. And they already got to the Earth somehow. So, stupid.
So it can't be that, possibly be that then?
It probably is because of the way you're talking.
Oh.
But I'm just saying it's a stupid thing if it is.
Two kindly old women in a cottage are revealed not to be kindly at all, offering to hide Susan, Who and Wyler from the Daleks, only to sell them out for extra food rations. Now, rather unsurprisingly, Smuggler Broccoli betrays Doctor Who to the Daleks too. But which betrayal is worse? Oh, we knew he was going to do that. I think those women in that cottage were way worse there, in terms of betrayal.
I hate that I'm with you on that. Like, he's no whole bars. He'll admit straight away. He's not apologetic, and he goes, I'm in it for myself. Yeah. I'm profit-based. I don't care. But yeah, they were all like, oh yeah, come on in. We'll look after you. And then,
your poor leg.
Yeah, rest up. And then it was like, we'll get more stuff. Yeah, they're more sly and conniving.
Yeah.
Bastards. That's what they are.
Doctor Who instigates a Roboman rebellion, and an exceptionally lithe Dalek manages to manhandle one of them over some railings in a rather contrived stunt sequence.
I just am impressed by the Dalek that got the guy to jump over that and go down the mine. It was like, okay. Unrealistic, but okay.
The Daleks are defeated, the film ends, and for a laugh afterwards, we show Dani the infamous theatrical trailer.
The Resistance Fighters is Peter Cushing, his most thrill-making role.
You hear that there? Thrill-making.
Ray Brooks, the boy with the knack. Who doesn't find life so easy in the year 2150 AD?
It's the boy with the knack.
Who doesn't find it easy?
Roberta Tovey.
Okay, Dan, so final thoughts on Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Do you remember what year the film was set in?
No idea.
We just can't remember. And Peter Cushing's most thrill-making
role. I do quite like Peter Cushing as the Doctor.
Yeah.
He's grown on me a bit on the second one. I think the second film was better. That you could tell there was now money in it. I don't feel like the acting was as... It's not as wooden. I feel like the first one was quite shit. And I think the second one, it flowed better. It still was that, that very 60s acting. But I think it was a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that they were on location.
And
yeah.
Going around the woods and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, I really enjoyed the whole bit with the robot bed. With the whole... Yeah. And Cribbins like, I go like... Oh,
and you're impressed by how strong he is.
Yeah. That was impressive. I want to rewatch that bit where he literally just picks him up like it's a piece of paper. Fucking knocked out, mate. One punched you. Yeah. I mean, they kidnapped him, but he wasn't like, oh my god, you kidnapped me. He was just like, okay, right,
yeah, let's get on with things.
You'll take me back, but I'll do what you need to do first.
Yeah.
But I do like the boy with the knack.
The boy with the knack.
In 2150 AD.
2150 AD. So, Dani, what did you think of Doctor Who and the Daleks and Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD?
This isn't going to go well, is it?
No, I did not like the Dalek one. Which one? The Doctor Who and the Daleks. I said the Dalek one as if like one of them was a
first one,
Dalek. Yeah, the both Dalek. The first one. I didn't like the first one. I understand why someone might have liked it at the time or as a kid. I appreciate that and I appreciate the nostalgia with it. But no, I didn't like it at all.
Are you not the target audience then?
Not the target audience.
Is Dan the target audience for any of these shows that we're showing her in this
No.
podcast?
That's a good point. Why
I'm
are
not.
we doing this podcast?
Because to get a fresh perspective, Joan. So, Dani, why didn't you like Doctor Who and the Daleks?
I do dislike it. I don't want to say I hated it. It's not like when we watched Rollerball and I hated Rollerball.
Yeah, you really hated that.
That was a hate passion. I wrote something at the time and I went, it just feels like a Doctor Who episode. It's okay, nothing amazing or super interesting. Usual Daleks have xenophobia and the other species are good. A bit boring on the storyline.
So you're basically slagging off a typical Terry Nation Doctor Who episode by the sounds of it.
Evidently, if that's what it is.
Did you know it was based on a Doctor Who TV story?
No.
Ah. It was based on The Daleks, which was the second Doctor Who serial ever, starring William Hartnell as the Doctor.
Yeah, so we just condensed what was... How many hours long is it?
It was 7 episodes and they condensed it down into, this hour-and-a-half film.
80-minute film.
And I'll say this much. The trailer condensed it down even more and gave away pretty much the entire film
the trailer
for you.
just tells you everything. It's like, do I need to watch it?
I know.
No.
Old trailers really do seem to give things away, and we think modern trailers are guilty of that.
I know, I wrote that down. I literally wrote that the trailer shares most of the film, and it's not a new thing. You watch films nowadays, trailer, you go, oh, they show you everything. They didn't use it. No, they did. They've always done. Nobody understands why.
No. I think the only thing that's changed is the pace of the trailers are faster now.
Yeah, because this trailer, like the old trailers, they're going through all the characters saying so-and-so is so-and-so and so-and-so is so-and-so, telling you who they are. The granddaughter, the timid boyfriend.
Yeah, the boy with the knack.
The boy with the knack.
The boy with the knack.
So just to dig in a bit, Dan, so talking about Doctor Who, you said it feels like a typical Doctor Who episode. So for our listeners, how much Doctor Who are you familiar with?
I'm familiar with majority of 9 onwards. When I say 9, I mean 9th Doctor.
Eccleston.
Yeah, I know. I really should say 8 because technically he was my first Doctor, was McGann.
Yeah, McGann.
So you saw the TV movie.
He was my first Doctor.
When it went out?
No.
Okay.
Whenever Rebecca had it on video.
Okay.
When it came out.
Oh, well, there you go
So
then.
when
But
it came out
the point,
96.
yeah, well, I haven't got a clue. I watched it.
Okay, so you watched it when...
I have no
yeah.
context to that. It was just in the house. I watched it. So I've got majority of that. There's a bit of Capaldi's Doctor that I've missed because Clara annoyed me and I stopped watching it. And I'm not up to date with Jodie. And then I've been subjected to some of the older Doctors.
Subjected.
Yeah, by Rebecca and Kevin. But I will say one of my favouriteest ever Doctor Who stories is one that nobody really cares for in the fandom. Paradise Towers is one of my favourites. It is amazing. There we go.
It's an excellent choice, actually.
Yay!
Excellent.
I like Paradise
I
Towers.
It's good fun.
I don't dislike it.
I like the gangs. I like all the colours and the
red
clothes
cans
and
the
yeah.
cans, yeah.
I know you like Patrick Troughton and Jamie.
Yeah, I like Troughton.
you say-
Troughton's one of my favourites. And I know you've made me watch quite a bit of Colin Baker, and I like. Is that the right one?
Colin
Baker's
Baker.
The one
Yeah,
with the crazy
Six,
colour.
Six, yeah, I like
sorry,
Six.
The crazy
I like
coloured
his.
jacket.
I fully approve of that.
Yeah, I
You've got
like
good
him.
taste
Thank
and
you.
discernment.
Thank you. I do like his.
Yeah.
That's my knowledge of Doctor Who there.
So that's just to provide a bit of context for the readers. We're not going to dwell on the TV series Doctor Who today because we're going to focus on the Cushing films. So we might just call them the Cushing films for short. I think most fans do, just to demarcate them from the series.
And there's a section of fandom that doesn't consider them any good because they are essentially remakes of existing Doctor Who stories. And also because they were deliberately made as children's films. And obviously in the lineup of Doctors on BBC logos and stuff, Cushing isn't featured in them because he's not an official Doctor from the TV series.
It's a completely different continuity.
I've got to say something controversial.
Yeah?
Should be the official second Doctor. And all the numbers should be changed from that point onwards. I mean, they did it, didn't they? I mean,
John
I know
Hurt,
I'm going to say they did it with the War Doctor, so...
I feel like you say some things just to wind Jonathan up now.
I know, I can see your face.
It lays into my question, really, that I wanted to ask you. I mean, Peter Cushing's interpretation of well, not the Doctor, Doctor Who. What is your opinion on that?
He's selfish, he's foolish, but it's not a new thing. I know, like, Hartnell's was quite selfish at times, he was quite rude, he was quite nasty at times. He's not like this sweetness and light that they try to make him out to be a little bit in the newer Who period. But I think he, is just a bit of a dick, if I'm honest with you.
That's actually softer than what she said to me, which was, he's a shit.
Right.
She was not kind to Peter Cushing. She just kept saying,
I don't like him. Peter Cushing as an actor, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
No issues with whatsoever. My issue is with the character of Doctor Who.
It's funny that you say he's horrible and selfish and all this stuff, because Terry Nation didn't like him as the Doctor. He felt he was too soft and fluffy and cuddly in comparison to William Hartnell, who was much more grumpy and short with the companions.
Yeah, the Doctor being selfish and sort of pretending the TARDIS was broken was from the TV version as well.
I think the difference is, it just occurred to me, is William Hartnell's Doctor definitely did not care about Ian and Barbara at that point. He was still, till the third story, really, against them. So he had less incentive, I guess, to care about their well-being. Whereas in the film, it's his granddaughter and her boyfriend, so he's going to care more.
But he doesn't.
So he doesn't. Because he doesn't. That makes it worse, because he doesn't. He's not caring for the welfare of his granddaughter.
So, as you've already mentioned, Jonathan, that you first saw them as a child in the 80s and then would watch them on repeats, I want to ask both Rebecca and John,
Yes.
when they first came across the films.
Yes, I discovered Doctor Who via the Paul McGann movie in 1996, and I started watching after that some of the TV series episodes like Pyramids of Mars, The Day of the Daleks. I was exploring that, and I saw, it was very early on, but I did see the VHS for Doctor Who and the Daleks with Peter Cushing on the cover in W.H. Smith's, and it was all in colour and it looked cool, and so it was among the first batch of Doctor Who I saw.
Were you aware enough to know that it wasn't proper Doctor Who?
I mean, I'd worked it out.
I suppose that's also a question to ask Jonathan, because you said you picked it up in the 80s, but were you already a fan of Doctor Who at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been around the mid-80s, so, I mean, I remember vividly watching Colin Baker's Era. I was massively into it at the time. I had a TARDIS, sort of Wendy house, and we did it in the playground, and yeah, I was into it very much. I would have just picked up a Doctor Who film on Saturday morning. I want to be in... I think at the time we had a black and white TV, so I didn't actually see the Daleks in colour. So
on the small screen in black and white.
But when we got colour TV in '86, it was great to see the opening title sequence of Colin's Era, all the bright colours. And you saw the same thing with the Daleks in the Peter Cushing films, those wonderful bright colours. So to see those for the first time was amazing.
Yeah.
So what about you, John?
I have a few childhood memories from the early 80s, before Jonathan, of seeing the ending of Daleks Invasion Earth 2150. The bit when the magnet's been reversed and the Dalek saucer comes crashing down. Funnily enough, when the Target novelisation came out of the TV story, the artist used images of the Robomen and the saucer from the film. So when I read the novelisation as a naive proto-Doctor Who fan, I pictured Peter Cushing in the novel rather than William Hartnell, because there were no illustrations inside, there was no Doctor on the cover, it was just a grey-haired old man. So my memory was, oh, it's someone from the film. So it wasn't until I became involved in fandom in the 90s that I went, oh, it's a remake. But I enjoyed both films, saw 80s repeats as Jonathan, saw them on video, saw them on DVD. Unfortunately, every time they've been re-released at the big screen, I've never been able to see them, so I've never seen them on the big screen in colour.
Same.
Did you go and see them, Jonathan?
Sadly not, no.
The last time it was July 22, wasn't it? I know friends who did go and enjoyed the experience.
I feel like I did watch it on a big screen because I was at Rebecca's and Kevin's,
yes.
and they've got the projector.
Yeah,
I know it's not really, but it's close
closer.
enough.
Bigger than my television.
Once you go on a projector, you can never go back to TV. So when Doctor Who and the Daleks was released, they did heavily promote and emphasise that it wasn't Doctor Who in colour, full colour. They were really, really bigging that up, and that it was widescreen, because at that point Doctor Who had only been seen in black and white.
And that was the thing, Amicus were in the film business to be successful. they'd copied Hammer in a way by making horror films and
They
stuff
saw
like
Hammer
that.
as their rival.
Oh, definitely. I think Amicus were the biggest British rival to Hammer. And so that gimmick of Daleks in colour on the big screen in Techniscope was a big seller.
And despite the film getting kind of mixed reviews and critics dismissing it as being for children, it was in the top 10 British films that year. It did very well.
It had a very good opening weekend. Apparently made something like £1,200 in old money over 3 days in 1965.
And just to provide some context of what else was going on in cinema at the time, you had films like Mary Poppins coming out, Those Magnificent Men and the Flying Machines, Goldfinger. There was famous 5 films out at the time. Quite a lot of spy films, the Amicus Files. Those are films that this was competing with.
So the only film I would have watched out of the other ones was Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
I know which I would have chosen to see.
In fact, while they were filming Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD, in the next studio next door, they were filming the fake Casino Royale film.
Fake Casino Royale.
I don't know how else to call it, the weird one with David Niven.
Yes, definitely weird.
And of course, the current beatnik music, that was influential on the soundtrack for the film. What did you think of the music?
Not memorable, because I can't remember the music.
I've had it stuck in my head all week. I love that music.
Yeah, I mean, most film scores going back that far were jazz influenced, and these two definitely are jazz, aren't they? With some electronic stuff from Barry Gray, famous from Thunderbirds and other Jerry Anderson things.
I mean, the music was by Malcolm Lockyer.
That was the first one, wasn't it?
Yes.
I've forgotten who did the second. Bill McGuffey?
Yes, Bill McGuffey.
The one that really sticks out in my mind is the piano music at the beginning and end of the second film.
It's so melancholic,
I love it.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you feel sad at the end? I always get really sad when that music starts playing because it's like the saying bye to Tom and probably never going to see him again. And you just, I don't know, it always hits me.
It's wonderful. He's so happy. I feel happy for him, actually.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's bittersweet. I found it very affecting.
Speaking of the music, the silly music when Tom is undercover as a robo-man.
Yeah.
Sleeping and eating his dolly mixtures off a paper plate. What do you think of that?
That's got to be one of the best scenes. As a spoiler, the entirety of the second film watching it, I just kept going, oh, Bernard Cribbins. Everything's better with Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah, Dan said the best scene
I literally
in both
wrote
films.
it down. Everything is better with Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah, Dan said the best thing. She said the best thing about these two films was the Robo-Man scene with Bernard Cribbins.
Then the second best scene is another Bernard Cribbins scene. Now this scene, I cannot.
She kept playing it.
I am telling it to everybody. I keep finding it and showing it to people. Right?
Seriously.
Like I appreciate Bernard Cribbins' past as an actual person. Right? I understand his military background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? He is so strong. There's a scene where he picks up a man by himself pretty much.
Yeah.
And there's not one little bit of notion that he's picking up a full-grown adult man. It's like he's picking up a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's just like, boom, boom,
She was
done.
so impressed by that.
I had to watch that over and over again.
And then she went home and showed it Mum and Dad, and they're like, why are you showing us this?
And I'm like, because Bernard Cribbins is so strong.
Which bit's that with the dead robo-man?
It's like the mining camp when they end up knocking someone out. He punches him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he punches him, he knocks him out, and
Oh,
then he goes off floor, and then
knock out the Robo-Man,
yeah,
don't they?
and then one of the other guys who's like one of the like human people who were
Miners.
like the mining.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, what are you doing? But he grabs the legs, but hardly at all touches him. and Bernard Cribbins just has like the upper body, and he's just like, you wouldn't even know he's picked him up. Like you don't see nothing. There's just nothing
No
about
straining,
him.
he just
doesn't strain. Just gets on with it. Picks him up, throws him down. It was just like, it was very much like, wow.
I'd never thought of that. I rewatched the films twice before doing this podcast, and I hadn't noticed that.
Well, when he first appeared, you're like, is that Bernard Cribbins? He was young. Because you're not used to seeing him young.
I'm not used to seeing him young at all.
Because, of course, you didn't know he was going to be in it. You also you quite like Roy Castle as well.
I really enjoyed Roy Castle.
You're always laughing at his clumsy moments.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Roy Castle fan.
You know, Roy Castle was from near Huddersfield.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Rebecca told me because
Sorry.
supposedly because supposedly our dad always says it, which is something.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, because when I
it.
watched it as a kid, my dad said, oh, he's from Huddersfield. I mean, sort of, but the thing about Huddersfield listeners is we like to claim people.
Patrick Stewart?
From Murfield.
Yes,
He's from Huddersfield.
we will claim people.
If you're from Holmfirth, you're from Huddersfield.
Yeah.
If you're from like Brickhouse, you might be from Huddersfield, but you could be from Castlezel. It's a really bizarre one.
If you're from Holmfirth, you're Huddersfield. You're Huddersfield.
We like to take. We'll
We'll take
your
naked
hours.
gentlemen.
We'll have you.
We'll take
we'll
lots
have
of summer
you.
wine. That's ours.
Hang on, we've legitimately got James Mason.
Yes, we do have James
And,
Mason, who was in a film with Bernard Cribbins, The Water Babies.
Yeah, and I think...
And John Pertwee.
And I think
I remember that so well. That's another childhood memory for me.
I just
I
remember
want to watch that again, actually.
And we can legitimately claim Jodie Whittaker as well.
Yeah,
Yes, we
speaking of
can.
Jodie Whittaker, when she was announced, everyone was like moaning, going, woman or whatever. But in Huddersfield, no one talks about a gender. Everyone would just say, she's a local lass, you know.
Yeah,
That's all people
local
in
news,
Huddersfield.
yeah.
That's all people in Huddersfield cared about. Huddersfield's like that. We're very weird. We're very possessive.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, and she was going around saying where she was from, and literally it was one of those things. It was like, oh, that local, she's from Shat, and we kept just saying, she's one of ours.
She went to Shelley High School.
Yeah.
Was that one of the good ones? I'm not sure. Shelley's kind of half countryside, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very country.
So it's a bit rural. Oh, speaking of local actors, I looked up Barry Ingham, who played Alidon the Tharl.
Oh, yeah.
He was born in Halifax.
Really?
So there's
Wow.
even more of a Yorkshire connection to this film.
From the dark side.
Yeah, so you like Roy Castle, didn't you?
I really enjoyed Roy Castle. I felt sorry for his character.
Yeah, because they
I
kept
felt like
picking on him.
Yeah, they victimised him a lot. There was a lot of bullying for him, and I understand the reason why they've gone and got this comedic actor. He's
Yeah.
very good at doing slapstick humour. Let's utilise that, but there was so much bullying involved that I just felt so sorry
they
for
blamed
him.
for the time travel thing, but it was Barbara who pushed him onto that lever.
That's it. Mind you, she was a bad character, but I think that's they didn't know how to write a woman character. She was very one-dimensional, and then eventually had one idea.
Susan does have a lot more to do in this film, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great she's a girl, but I felt very much like it was that thing of outdated sexism. The main adult female character is just like useless, essentially.
Well, yeah, because when they're saying someone's got to go for the radiation drugs, and it's like, no, we won't send the fully grown woman, we'll send the little kid instead.
Yeah.
Which was weird, to be honest.
Saying that, do you think Louise in the second film, she was just as redundant as Barbara?
Do you remind me who she is again?
She's Doctor Who's niece for some reason.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think what she looked like in the
She
film.
looked a bit like Sherlock Holmes with that kind of tweed jacket thing.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Do you think she had more or less to do than Barbara in the first film?
Probably about equal, to be quite honest. So,
In fact, what relation is she to Susan? Because Susan and Barbara in the first film are his granddaughters, and then Louise is his niece.
Well, they'd be cousins then,
yeah,
won't
they'd
they?
be cousins.
So they'd be cousins.
They'd be cousins.
Okay, so she's the daughter of Doctor Who's brother or sister.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I kind of just think of our own, like, grandparents and stuff. Because, like, our grandma lived right next door to her sister. And so our mum and uncle grew up with their cousins. They were next door to each other. They
Yeah.
literally were the houses next door. And even when we used to go around as grandkids, it's the second cousins that I grew up with because they were the same age as us, because it was obviously the kids of kids. And so we were still all intermingling quite a lot.
Families did back then,
Yeah.
when this was made.
Oh, I'm saying there's nothing wrong. It just always...
It's just you.
It's just me being odd.
There was definitely a family feel, I think, in the two films, which was something Roberta Tovey raised in the Dalekmania
Yes,
documentary, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
What do
'cause
you think?
I was thinking this is a good point to raise, because that was what made it different to the TV series. Rather than Ian and Barbara being teachers, it was more a family affair, and it made it more cosy and warm. And I guess that the idea again was because this was targeting children.
I think it makes more sense as well as characters.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially like when you think of either one, apart of, Tom's not the family, just being kidnapped along with them.
Yeah,
But like the rest of them, they're in these family units, so kind of just going along because that's what you do. You go along with the head of the family almost. Even though they victimised, Ian quite a lot, at the end of the day, he'd come over to see his girlfriend, and then they'd gone on this adventure. It was like, well, I'm with my girlfriend and her granddad, and you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and a sister. So yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I'll go along.
And it requires less setup, because imagine if they did keep them as teachers. Well, we'd have to have a scene of them being stalkers, basically, creeping on Susan.
What does everybody think in the first film at the beginning when they're all in Doctor Who's front room reading? I loved it, but what do you all think?
I like that especially when I was a kid, I like that. The whole, Susan reading the intellectual science book. Barbara's trying to read a pop science book.
The Science of Science.
Yes. And then the Doctor's reading a Dan Dare comic. It was just a funny juxtaposition. To me as a kid.
Even as an adult, I thought that was funny. I loved the fact that, you were seeing them reading these books, that you cut to him just like, yep, comic.
And he's just like, ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, he's just enjoying it.
But I like the fact that it wasn't like the family were forced to read those. It was just whatever you find interesting, you pick up and you read. And I thought that was a nice little...
It was nice.
Inclusive kind of fit feeling.
It was nice that Barbara was reading the pop science book rather than a romance novel, which is what so many other films would have done. So, Dan, what did you think of Susan being changed into a child in the film? Because in the TV series, she's a teenager, a 15, 16-year-old?
Yeah, I think she's meant to be 15.
As I've already established earlier, the context of what I've actually seen, I have seen the first series, set of stories of Hartnell.
Yeah.
Probably as much Hartnell I've seen, if I'm honest with you. So I can vaguely remember her, but I do like... Is it Roberta? I wanted to call her something else.
Yeah,
then.
Roberta.
Roberta Tovey. I do like her. I like her character. I do like her.
I think they work really well together, her and Peter Cushing. And it was interesting on the Dalekmania documentary, it was said that because the film was doing so well, Peter Cushing was asked, will you do a sequel? And he said only if Roberta Tovey's back as Susan.
And that was while they were still filming the first one.
Yes, it was.
So they must have known they were onto something.
They were getting that sense because Dalekmania was sweeping the country.
Yeah.
The merch was doing well, the toys and everything.
Oh, speaking of the toys, I noticed for the first time on this rewatch, when all the Daleks are being pulled into walls and stuff at the end of the second film, one of them is a model shot of the Louis Marx toy Dalek.
Yeah, the strange shaped ones.
Yeah, which the TV series used later on to double up Dalek armies in model shots as well. But it's such a quick shot, I just never noticed it until this rewatch.
Me neither.
You'll have to go check it
I will now.
On the Dalekmania documentary, Roberta Tovey was saying this lovely little story saying Peter Cushing was the flower man because he was really into horticulture, and it was him who called up the studio, the director, and said, can we add in this scene where the Doctor and Susan find this flower and then Ian crushes it?
Oh, that scene's in the TV version.
Is it?
Yeah, he rang up the Royal Horticultural Society to get a name for this flower.
Ah, that's it.
I will say what I did like as well about Susan is sometimes I get frustrated with characters that are really intelligent, like they're pushed like, oh, I'm so super amazing, and the super this and the super that and the things like that. I mentioned it in Dark Season because the main character annoys me, and I'm still not happy with you, Kevin, what you said.
Oh, yes, I remember now.
Very tactful.
But like I mentioned, I stopped watching Capaldi's because Clara got annoying. I find that I enjoyed Roberta Tovey's character. Like, she wasn't annoying. She wasn't that know-it-all little shit that you get a lot in those kind of...
Yeah,
when it's a young child who was super intelligent and really... You know what I mean? She didn't have that annoying quality where you just think, oh, fuck off.
She's likeable.
She was likeable. She was respectful.
There's just one bit where she feels off the way she's written, and that's in Dalek Invasion Earth when her and Wyler are in the woods and she jumps out at one point at him and shouts boo. And he's like, knock it off. And why is she behaving like that?
No, you see, I felt that's more believable in some way. She's that age where, kids don't always think of things logically. And in that moment, she was in a play moment. And so she probably had this false sense of security, thought, oh, we're safe. But like, oh, I'm just going to go like, boo, because you do. You know what I mean? I can see that. So I think it added to her believability as a character. Yes, she might be super intelligent, but you don't always think things through. I did like that bit. For that reason.
Okay, what did you think of the Thals and the Daleks down?
They were the blonde giants, weren't they?
Yeah, the blonde giants.
With a lot of eye makeup.
Yeah.
And that's just the men.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, it just feeling like one of those, Daleks have xenophobia kind of storylines, and the other species are the good guys, and whatever.
It's ironic in a way because the Daleks are famously based on the Nazis. And yet the Thals, who are blonde, blue-eyed, the perfect Aryan race, being the enemy of the Daleks.
It is ironic, but I suppose that's the whole point of saying it doesn't matter what you look like, because people are people.
Daleks hate themselves.
Yeah.
And they had to, all the men had to shave their chests, and they were paid extra money to do that.
Yeah, they had to go to their union, because when they were told we're going to have to shave your arms and chest, they were like, these are big burly blokes who were like porters, the builders and so on. They were like, we're not doing that. And then they're like, oh, you'll have to. So they said they went to their union to negotiate more money because they saw it as losing a sense of their masculinity being shaved.
I'm going to just go, good for them. I'm a woman who prefers hair on a man. I hate the shaven look. It's not for me. So actually, I'm with them on that. Keep your hair, or you get paid more. And that should be for women as well. If the women want to have to be shaved, get paid more for it. Everybody should get paid more for having to mess around with your body hair.
Sigourney Weaver got paid more to have her hair shaved for Alien Free.
Good. I'm glad. I'm very happy with that fact.
Were you aware before, Dan, that the Daleks were based on the Nazis? I mean, it seems obvious to us, but I wasn't sure.
I don't think I've ever explicitly known, but you telling it me didn't make me go, like, oh, really? It just made me go, oh,
It's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a common thing with Terry Nation, because he grew up during World War II. That was kind of echoed in nearly everything he ever wrote, especially with Dalek stories.
Because they even draw on that kind of imagery where you see them all in rows chanting, destroy the files, and they've got their
Raising the right,
they're raising the plunges and everything.
And I suppose, like, the black one with the gold and the silver's got similar imagery to the Nazi, like, uniform. And you're talking, it's the 60s. It's in recent past.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
it's going to be
it's very, very recent. It's not even classed as history at that point, is it?
You would be in a family and you would have family members who had been in the war or died in the war. There'd be people up above you in the workplace who would have been at war and knew about it. So it would have been in everyone's lived experience.
You see in your products, in those forthcoming years, when people are able to actually process what's happened and talk about it almost.
Yeah. So, Doctor Who and the Daleks, what was your favourite part and what was your least favourite part?
My favourite part was Roy Castle.
Yeah.
I liked him. I liked his character a lot. I felt very sorry for him. The rest of the film was okay. It was okay. I think that's the only thing I can say about it.
Didn't you enjoy the side quest where they had to climb up a mountain?
No.
And then got there and just found everyone else had got there too. So
yeah, that was
what was
stupidest subplot going.
They didn't achieve anything.
Didn't achieve anything.
They lost two dudes.
They were getting the Daleks from two sides. It was a pincer movement.
But they didn't.
But they didn't.
That was the plan. But they didn't do it. They didn't achieve that. What did you think of the sets in Doctor Who and the Daleks? Like the burnt forest.
I've got no comment really about the forest. It's just one of those Doctor Who things.
I like the green light and glow of the forest. I think that's quite atmospheric and moody.
I like a lot of the sets, like the Dalek City or even the streets in London, that you could tell it was done in a studio, but it was so much bigger than Lime Grove Studio they used for the actual Doctor Who BBC series. Just to see the sets were so big, and the forest, I loved the scale. I thought it was fantastic.
What did you think of the TARDIS, Dan?
What I thought of the TARDIS was it was cheap and shitty.
But didn't you think it looked like it was trying to make it look like, an old man and his granddaughter built it?
Yes and... No, actually, yes. It did feel like an old man had built it. And I say this in a way that I mean that I think if anyone with actually half decent DIY skills would have made a better job at it.
A lot of wires, a lot of loose wires.
Yeah, I mean, not loose wires don't bother me, but it's just the fact that I think I could knock something up that looked a lot better. Even if it's the same components, I think just actually aesthetically pleasing, I could have made that look a lot nicer. So yeah, that I felt it was very budget shit. It is the best way I can say it. It took me away from the film. Maybe if I was a 7-year-old and that's the target audience, I wouldn't have thought about it. But as an adult, I was going, well, that's shoddy workmanship and I could have done better. Got no comment on, like I said, the forest and
the Dalek City.
The Dalek City. Dalek City is a Dalek City. The only thing I will say about the Dalek City is when they had those 3 doors and they were like, you choose to go down that door and I'll choose to go down that door. I very much was like, they would walk into each other because in the right door they went in and then they turned left immediately, which then it would take you literally straight to the middle door.
The middle door.
And then the one when they went in the left door, they turned right immediately. You'd go to the middle. You are literally 3 doors in the same corridor here. You are walking into each other. Why are you making out like you're in different corridors and going different places? Makes no sense.
And Ian getting the weird video game pressure panel puzzle.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, I love that bit because that was very much to use his comedic acting for trying to get there in time, and I very much enjoyed that bit.
Earlier on we mentioned about how this version of Doctor Who was made more targeting at children, and that was reflected in the treatment of the Daleks, so we hardly saw any of what they looked like on the inside. Instead of using flamethrowers as their weapons, they changed it to fire extinguishers. But I didn't have any issue with that because it didn't occur to me as a 12-year-old thinking, oh, that looks silly or wrong. You just think it's nerve gas or something, don't you? The fire extinguishers when it's fired on Ian.
It needed to be visual because on television we just turned the whole screen negative. There was no laser beam drawn onto it or anything.
I'm going to say, as an adult, I didn't even think any different. I didn't go, oh, it wasn't fire. I was just like, they are still attacking and you are still dying. So I'm going to ask, how does the fandom feel about both of these films?
When I first saw it, I thought it was quite strange the Doctor wasn't a Time Lord and that he was a human, he lived on Earth, an inventor who invented TARDIS. That was really strange to me.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I remember turning to Rebecca and I was just like, wait, he's human? He's not a Time Lord? So even with my small knowledge of the fandom, I was very much like, oh, I'm confused.
There was nothing really to contradict, though.
At that point.
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah.
But one thing it was important was it actually proved at the time that the Doctor could be replaced by another actor. But it also showed the Doctor can continue with a different personality and not necessarily be the same grumpy old man. Peter Cushing did have an influence there in showing that the Doctor could be different people with different personalities.
That's true. I'd say there was a resurgence in interest in fandom around the early to mid-90s. Probably we got another reissue on VHS. So we had multiple VHS releases, multiple DVD releases, a couple of Blu-rays. We're just going to keep re-releasing them. It's like George Lucas and Disney just re-releasing Star Wars and over again. Like Rebecca and Jonathan were saying, they did Dalekmania, an hour-long documentary dedicated to them.
In the 90s.
In the mid-90s. But also, the cast started appearing at conventions too. Jenny Linden, Roberta Tovey. I met Jenny Linden at one. So
my question as well, though, I'm just going to go back to what do the fandom actually think, though, of the films? That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking I'm happy with the person. I just want to know what the actual collective fandom...
So, even though they're not part of the TV continuity, there's a faction of fandom that loves them, and whereas there's fans who think, no, they're rubbish, they're kids' films, they're pale knockoffs of the TV originals. And when I met Jenny Linden, she said that it's nice that the fans remember us because we're always considered like second-class Doctor Who. So it's nice to be remembered, you know, that people are interested in inviting them to conventions.
It is sad that people think that, because I appreciate at the time when you only had, like Rebecca was saying, you only had Hartnell. They'd never experienced a second Doctor, or third or fourth or fifth or as many as that we've had. But you think now, when there's been so many, you feel like the fandom would actually be like, yes, it's slightly different. But then I suppose that's also, I know a lot of the fans didn't particularly care for the McGann film either, did they? Because he was a slightly different variation of the Doctor. I don't think he had the same, I say quote unquote, canon.
And some accuse it of being too American.
Didn't know that, but fair enough. I don't have that knowledge of it.
Well, it's fun. It is sad that, yes, fans are really funny about Doctor Who having its own separate continuity with the films, because you get other franchises, and it's much more common in Japan where you will have, let's say, the anime series or something, but then they'll also have a film version, and it might be like this, the same story, but adapted in a slightly different way, and the characters might even look the same. It might be the same voice artist, but it's not a sequel. It's like a redo.
It's a parallel.
Yeah, it's like parallel. And they do that in Japan, and they accept that. They don't go, oh, no, that's not canon.
Some Doctor Who fans are so funny, they don't even consider post-2005 Doctor Who as real Doctor Who.
Yeah, they're just sad.
They're still on about it now, 15, 16 years later.
Wow. If you're a fan of something, you're a fan of something. Yes, you might have preferences. There might be things that you like more than others.
Yeah, but you didn't watch the Capaldi era.
That's it.
It doesn't mean you're not going around saying Capaldi era is not real. I don't count it as
That's
canon.
it was just me saying that I didn't. Part of it annoyed me. That was me personally. That doesn't say I hated it. I really like Capaldi, and that last series of Capaldi was actually really good, and I'm really sad that it was only a one season arc, because that was I liked the companions for that. I loved Bill, and I can't remember Matt Lucas's character's name, but I loved them. But I just don't understand this fandom where it's this gatekeeping stuff that I've always got an issue with in
it's
sci-fi.
gatekeeping.
That it's their opinion's the most correct opinion, and if anyone thinks different, then they're not a true fan or they're not a true this. So yeah, so saying you've said like fans don't class it as canon or blah 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 blah. Would you class these films as Doctor Who then? All three of you, I want to know your opinions on that.
It's an absolutely fascinating question. Thank you so much for asking it.
I say yes. I just say it's, as we said before, it's in parallel.
Yes, it's an alternative version. It's a remake, an abbreviated version of the TV episodes. Speaking for myself, but also for quite a large part of fandom, not all of it, I still have a great affection for these movies from the first time I saw them 35 years ago or so up to now, and that hasn't faded away. It's very much there. What about you, Rebecca?
Oh, the same. It was always there. It was just, I was first exploring Doctor Who, and it was just, it was another thing. It was Doctor Who's also a film. I got the sense watching, it's not part of the show, but it doesn't matter. I'm still enjoying it. So it's just another thing to enjoy and watch, and this is cool. I wasn't getting hung up on whether it's canon or not. Those things don't matter.
I'm going to say no.
Controversial.
Like Rebecca, though, and the Japanese, it's a parallel version that exists outside of TV continuity. And I enjoy the films. I've enjoyed rewatching them again. And I even showed Amber, my daughter, who you might remember from last time, and my son Malcolm the film a few years ago. Both of them enjoyed both films. So, in fact, I think I showed them those before proper Doctor Who, just because they're colourful and Daleks, and children like Daleks.
So you just said no, that you don't agree that they're part of Doctor Who, but then your whole explanation was to explain that it's a parallel and that you enjoy them and that it is Doctor Who. So what's your answer there, John? Because you've just contradicted yourself so much, I don't know what you mean.
I enjoy them, but I don't consider them true Doctor Who.
But why don't you consider them true Doctor Who?
Because they're not part of the television series. I know the television series has
Right,
no
so-
such thing as canon.
No, I appreciate that. So if they're nothing to do with the television show, does that mean that Paul McGann's film is not true Doctor Who then?
Paul McGann is,
But that's a film.
but he regenerated from Sylvester McCoy.
And?
and on television, the Doctor's regenerated from him.
Yeah, but
So
when
what I'm going to go
when
with is
Cushing-
you are the person that I'm saying that gatekeeping is wrong and your opinion is wrong.
Okay.
Right, John, that explanation doesn't hold up then, because when Peter Cushing was the Doctor, there was no such thing as regeneration.
I know. But Paul McGann's was meant to be continued from a TV series.
Yeah.
It wasn't a separate thing like the Dalek films were.
McGann is 100% part of the official canon. There's no doubt.
Yeah, he is one of the Time Lord Doctors. He's one of the regenerations, whereas Cushing is the parallel.
Is Cushing a Morbius Doctor?
No.
All I know is I'm recounting them and renumbering them, and Cushing is number 2, and Troughton's gone to 3, and they've all been shifted, okay?
Well, the Morbius,
No, it's 2.
well, the whole Flux thing is already undone all the numbers. Like, why not?
And all I'm going to do is I'm going to quote Tennant's, it's timey-wimey, innit?
You're saying how they inserted the War Doctor,
Yep.
and we made a deliberately bad fan film where I played the Peter Cushing version of Doctor Who in place of the War Doctor, so he was just the War Doctor Who, along with the moustache, the grey hair.
Yeah, so you performed all that with the moment.
Yes.
You were acting with the moment,
yeah,
and
so
they had that big box with the button and stuff. But it was Cushing rather than John Hurt.
Yeah. So it was our parallel piss take.
Funny because both John Hurt and Peter Cushing played Winston in 1984.
And also Peter Cushing was only in his early 50s when he made these two films. He was younger than William Hartnell, so there's a history of aging up to play the part.
I don't know if you saw the Noel Edmonds did a gotcha on John Pertwee, and Noel Edmonds was playing an Irish person, and there was a funny line about something like, "Oh, and I hear about your success in the Hammer horror films." And
I bet John Pertwee didn't react well to that.
But you know what? I can kind of see it. They've got a similar look if I take my glasses off.
Okay, so we're going to move our discussion on a bit. We're going to focus now more on the second of the Cushing films. Dani, what year was it set in?
1965.
Dani. It was 2150 AD.
Could have fooled me.
In the trailer,
Far in the future.
in the trailer it said 200 years in the future.
Yeah, but it's also repeated about 5 or 6 times that the year is 2150 AD, in case you have the memory of a goldfish for some reason.
Because it's the future.
But then why in the future do we see vehicles from the 60s in 2150 AD? And they're not even in a transport museum, are they?
No, like the TV version,
Exactly.
you're right. Again, it's a budget thing, isn't it?
The title of the film very much suggests what it's about. The Daleks invade Earth and it's 2150 AD.
It gives you the premise straight away. Like, this is what the film's going to be. Yeah,
Although they've already invaded, haven't they?
they might have invaded in the April, and when we're watching it, it might be the November.
Yeah.
So it still happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I do. I think it's more interesting because Doctor Who and the Daleks, whatever. But Dalek Invasion Earth does have a bit more like, so they're actually doing something. I do enjoy the fact that I suppose we've come into it already partway through the invasion, or after they've invaded. Really, you normally see a country being fine, or a world being fine, and then getting the invasion. You don't normally actually see it post invasion. It is a different take on it.
Yes, it's a bit of a dystopia, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You were saying about the title, Jonathan, being on the nose there.
Yes.
The Italian one. Now, I'm no expert. I can't pronounce Italian for toffee, so please accept my apologies, Italian listeners. It's Daleks il futuro tra un million di anni, which translates as Daleks, the future in a million years. It's like anything in the 60s that's the future is just automatically cool or exotic. And the Italian cover has a woman in a spacesuit on it as well.
That is so random.
Next to the Robo Man.
Does anyone have any favourite characters from the second film?
Tom, for me, character.
Yeah, we like Tom. I like Tom.
I'm a Bernard Cribbins fangirl, evidently.
He's very active in the film. He's very proactive is what I'm looking for. He does things. He gets on with things. He's the one who's looking out for people.
He's more proactive than Ian. He's less of a comic character, as comic bits like, the food machine stuff.
Tom is very good. He's on the ball with things. And
A strong character, I think.
He's great.
So, talked about Bernard Cribbins, an obvious one. I'm very fond of Peter Cushing's interpretation of the Doctor.
How gruff Andrew Keir is as Wyler.
Absolutely.
Susan, Roberta Tovey's likeable.
Oh, and there's Ray Brooks as David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've done that, the boy with the knack kind of thing. I don't remember his character in that.
I do.
I really don't understand why they were pushing that in the trailer because I can't remember it at all.
Was there a character?
The Ray Brooks starred in a film called The Knack and How to Get It from 1964 or 65.
That's what he was trying to reference.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Ray Brooks was quite a well-known actor throughout his career, and that film was quite popular in Britain at the time.
It's got more context to it now. It makes more sense to
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It means nothing to us unless you know that bit of information.
I was just looking through the cast list and I noticed the old woman was played by Eileen Way, who, from memory, was in the very first episode of the BBC TV version of Doctor Who with William Hartnell playing.
She's one of the cave women.
Playing an old woman there.
Old
Yes.
mother. Yeah.
Oh, yes, as soon as you said that, I realised, yes, it's her.
It's just a nice link from the film to the original TV series.
Is that why she's called Old Woman? Because she was called Old Mother in the...
I think it's probably just one of those acting coincidences.
She was typecast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at Philip Maddock. He's the reverse. He did 3 Doctor Who stories in the years after this film.
Yeah.
I found it a funny coincidence was that Andrew Keir, who played Wyler, played Professor Quatermass in Quatermass and the Pit. But originally they wanted Andre Morell to play Wyler, who was Professor Quatermass in the TV version of Quatermass and the Pit.
Like they were just going for Quatermass actors.
Yeah, they just went, well, we can't have that Quatermass actor, we'll get the other one then, the film version. That'll do. So, Dan, how well does it imagine the future? Because it's showing us the mid-22nd century. How futuristic is it?
Not at all.
No.
It screams 60s.
Yeah, like Jonathan said, why are they using 1960s cars?
Again, it's a budget thing, isn't it? They use a Shepperton studio backlot for the streets, they used, 1960s clothes, they used 1960s actors. It's just...
1960s actors as opposed to what?
As opposed to the 2050.
So they'd have, you're saying, John, they
got-
would have hired actors from different
They
decades?
should have got real people from 2150 to play those parts, yes.
And why are the Sugar Puff adverts everywhere?
No, that's the only part that I even mentioned it when we watched it. That's the only bit that's realistic to me, because nowadays they've gone for a nostalgia hit on a lot of the like Cocoa Pops and and cornflakes, Kellogg's Corn, all those.
Yeah.
They've gone for this nostalgia for their marketing, and so they've kind of gone back to that 50s, 60s kind of
The
look and
old-fashioned
stuff.
boxes.
So I really do believe that it's 2150 and they've gone, look at this nostalgia advertising from years gone by. If we keep doing this nostalgia thing every 20 to 30 years as a cycle, that it would be a new thing again, even in 2050.
Did you feel a compulsion to go out and buy Sugar Puffs?
No.
Sugar Puffs put up half the budget for that film because it was more expensive than the first one.
It's the earliest example of product placement in a film, if not the first.
I mean, you can see the money value. Like, you can tell more money was spent on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot
It's a
better.
big film.
The flying saucer set.
Just all
the
of it.
control room set.
All of it you could tell was just better quality, was what I was going to say.
I-
Except the TARDIS set.
That as a child and an adult, that's what always disappointed me, is just the rubbish TARDIS set. I know they want it to look homemade, but I just think it looks crap.
It does.
But it looks
really
different.
does.
It looks different in the second film.
It's the same style though, isn't
It's
it?
still shit.
I think
I go that far, but
I just feel like the TARDIS is almost an afterthought. Like they just didn't put any effort in it because they're focusing so much on the rest of the film.
I think that's the thing that lets it down for me. But it just doesn't live up to the rest of the ingenuity of the rest of the designs.
Okay, if it's not an alien ship in disguise, why does it look like a police box?
Because it's from 1960s, and they would have been common to see in the 1960s. But he has not thought about it being in different places or different time periods.
Maybe he just got
Like
one.
Did he
Or-
steal it off the street corner?
That's what
Maybe.
I'm thinking. Maybe he just got it from a junkyard or stole it.
Oh yeah.
I suppose junkyard makes sense, like because I know there's a house in Huddersfield where they've got one of those red telephone boxes in the garden. They've had that.
Oh
donkey's
yeah, I mean
years.
I've seen them in old school playgrounds, really old post boxes and phone boxes.
So you can buy post boxes that are out of service, and you're allowed to have them. You're just not allowed to have them in your front garden. I have looked into this. I'm not going to tell you
Yeah.
why, but I have looked into this.
Oh, Dani, is it because you want a post box in the garden?
Maybe.
VR, ER, or whatever you can get your hands on.
I would want an Edward, but they are very
rare.
rocky
Yeah.
shit, really.
I've just had a thought, actually, and I don't think this has ever been done before. What if Big Finish did something around this? For example, a prequel to explain more about how the TARDIS came about, invented by Doctor Who, the characters, etc., etc.
It's funny you mentioned that. After the films, Malcolm Hulke, who later wrote for Doctor Who, wrote a radio pilot for the Cushing Doctor.
Really? How
And
interesting.
I believe it was recorded, but no copy exists. And some fans did a recording of it a few years ago. And that's all I know on the matter.
I think it'd be cool because they could get Roberta Tovey and she could be doing it as an adult, recounting what it was like as a child. And
Yeah, they could call it Susan Who, because that was her surname.
I mean, as a devout fan, Jonathan, what's your feelings on if that was to happen?
I think it would be fascinating just to get into the characters more and flesh them out and go into a bit more detail about their
could find-
background and motivations.
So we could get Roberta Tovey in. She could do it as a talking book, maybe.
Jill Curzon's still around.
Yeah. Yeah, bring
I
her
don't
back.
know about Jenny Linden. Is she still around?
I think so.
I mean, they're always doing stuff like getting Katie Manning to play an older Joe Grant recounting adventures with the Doctor, so it wouldn't be unusual to get Roberta Tovey or Jill Curzon to do it.
Or like an older Nissa, I think they've
Yeah.
gone.
So Guy Henry, who played Grand Moff Tarkin, i.e. Peter Cushing in Star Wars Rogue One, he could come back and play him for Big Finish, couldn't he?
Oh, that would be perfect.
Just going back to the look of it, it doesn't look like 2150. It looks like World War II France. And the resistance are like the resistance of World War II. Even the Dalek propaganda broadcast.
Okay, so what you're saying has made me remember that it kind of had the same vibes as a film. The one was it Sam Mendes did it?
Yes,
And
1917.
That's it. Yeah, where it was just like, it's meant to be one. I know it's not one take, but he pretty much tried doing the majority of it in one take, and he tried to make it look like it was.
It's edited as one take.
Yeah, it was. There's bits there that it does remind me, like when the near the end
When
they're
in
in
that
that
town,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's got that vibe to it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah.
evoking a war film.
Yeah, it's got that feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, the Daleks enslaved humans and had them work in that mine in Bedfordshire, but what did they do with humans around the rest of the planet?
Yeah, because they said there was a weak point in a crust in Bedfordshire, so yeah, what's going on in other countries like France?
I suppose it's the beauty
Or
of
China.
not knowing because they don't want you to communicate. So I suppose it'd be very much like the 1700s, and the average Joe in a town in the UK would have probably not had a clue what was really going on in the rest of the world because it had nothing to do with them and the information wouldn't come to them.
So they could be doing mining in other countries as well.
Yeah,
That bomb could be one of many.
Or generally different things, just trying to get resources from the planet.
When they explained it, that they're going to hollow out the metallic core and use the Earth like a giant spaceship
I mean,
and fly it around.
I still don't feel like that's truth. I feel that's just what the Daleks have said.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely hollowing it out. They're stripping the Earth of its materials that they can get. That's the take I got from it anyway.
So in Doctor Who and the Daleks, you've got all these Thal characters. We've got very alien names like Alidon, Ganatus, Dione, Timosis, Antodus, and so on. Whereas in Dalek Invasion Earth, they're all names like David, Conway, Broccoli, Thompson. Which do you prefer? The familiar Earth setting or the alien world of Skaro?
The familiar Earth. I'm going to say the second film trumps the first film for me in lots of ways. Budget alone helped for visuals. The story was more interesting for me. It's still the Daleks being xenophobic, but it's a slightly different take on it. I think it's a bit more of a nuanced, complicated story. It's not just Daleks bad, people are good.
Well, yeah, you've got some humans who aren't necessarily good. We've got people taking advantage of the situation.
That's it. And so I think I prefer the second storyline. And as already mentioned, everything is better with Bernard Cribbins. So
Just to change the subject,
Please do.
They're still eating soup in 2150 AD.
yeah.
The young woman and the old woman.
See, they were horrible. They weren't caring about other humans. They were trying to make their lives better.
I mean, I felt sorry for Philip Maddock in that shed. He was surrounded by all that gas and was a great actor in so many Doctor Who episodes, but...
All his character deserved it.
Exactly.
It was the black marketeer.
Yeah.
The smuggler.
Yes, the smug one.
The smug smuggler.
Yeah, the smug smuggler.
No, and Braddock, he was all out for himself.
Yeah. It's the war, isn't it? The black market during both World Wars. Or people looking out for themselves.
Was there a black market in the First World War? Because wasn't the black market in the Second World War because they did rations? Because in the First World War, the rich people bought everything and made it so the poor people couldn't get things.
I know in the First World War they did have to start eventually bringing in a sort of basic kind of limitation rationing thing, but it wasn't as organised as the Second World War because of there were people in the First World War, like you said, buying up everything. And
Which we haven't seen repeat itself at all in recent years.
no.
Toilet rolls.
What do you think, Jonathan? Which do you prefer of the two films?
Oh gosh, probably the second one, because I just like the alien invasion. It's just a premise that I very much like, and it's real, everyday surroundings.
I think the second film is the better of the two.
I think the second one's the most exciting. And I think Peter Cushing had really got into his stride by the second film, and the lovely speech he does at the end, one mistake, one deviation, I just thought that was so the Doctor, you know.
I do agree with you about Peter Cushing's Doctor. I feel like he developed it better. I hated his character in the first one. Like I said, selfish, just very much a dickhead. Only cared about, I want to explore and I want to know this and I want to do that so everyone else has to suffer. But in this second one, he had more of a, we're going on this adventure, but actually caring about other people and help people and
Justice.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Fighting for justice.
That's it. And there was a bit more, I feel like I've witnessed something and I can't just do nothing. He had principles that you could believe in and you could get behind.
And I love those shots of the Dalek saucer flying over London. I mean, that's just
It's a really
wonderful.
good model shot.
Visually, for a model shot, it's outstanding.
I guess I'm weird because I prefer the first film.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the one that sticks with me. I find the first one actually keeps my attention more than the second one. As much as I love Bernard Cribbins, the first one just, they're going to a strange planet. What is this? Ooh, what's this strange place? This petrified forest with all this stuff falling apart, mysterious animals. You're like, what is that? And it's so exciting. And then they see this city. You can't see anyone there. And you're like, wow, that looks so cool. And I feel that same thrill that, Doctor Who and Susan feel about, we want to go in and explore. And I just loved all that.
to me, I prefer the second film, and I think it's better than the TV version it's based on. Whereas with the first film, I think the TV version's better of that story.
They did actually plan originally to do a third film, and it might have been based on The Chase, but I think there's some debate on that. If they had made a third film, would you have watched it?
You know, you said based on The Chase. We're not talking about the ITV TV series, The Chase, with Bradley Walsh, who also has been in Doctor Who.
No, Dan. The Chase was another Hartnell. In fact, it was the third Dalek story of the Hartnell era.
I didn't even know that. Sorry.
If they had made a third film, would you? And I said, oh, by the way, there's a third one. Would you watch it?
No. I'm going to be honest. No.
I think a third film would have been very expensive because they would have needed so many different sets, like the Empire State Building or Count
Chase.
Dracula's castle, was it?
Yeah, it was a ghost train ride.
They would have had to have built quite a few mechanoids, and I mean that would have been another expense.
It would have been cool having big mechanoids on the big screen. And Dan?
What are mechanoids?
Jonathan, explain.
You need to go on Google Images and look at a picture.
Oh, Jonathan.
No, I'm not having that.
It was like another attempt at making the Daleks, because they thought, oh, Daleks were a hit with the kids. Let's try and make another mechanical creature. But this is totally mechanical, not organic inside like the Daleks. But it was more shaped like a ball, a hexagonal,
very wide hexagonal
ball thing. It's like
pieces.
a 3D hexagon.
Yeah.
Shape.
They're not very threatening, really, are they?
No.
They're much tamer than the
I've
Daleks.
seen
But they're good
that.
fun.
So Dani's just been shown a picture from The Chase with mechanoids. She now knows what they look like.
And I have seen it, not from the show. When I've randomly been trying to buy people, presents, I've accidentally seen a model of it and gone, what's that from? Dunno.
Yeah, they tried to push them as... Well, every single Doctor Who monster or creature after the Daleks was just being pushed to try and emulate the success of the Daleks. And none of it ever really worked. The Zarbi, who were giant ants, or even...
the Crotons.
The Crotons, or the Quarks, just funny robots or creatures. And the mechanoids were one of them, and they bombed. I think they appeared in some of the 60s comic strips, but that's about it.
Are you forgetting, John?
Big Finish.
No. The mechanoids were in the big animation series from about 2 years ago.
Oh, yes. I had forgotten that.
During the COVID
A
era.
Dalek one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Without the Doctor, and it was focused on the Daleks versus the mechanoids.
I need to watch that.
And it was heavily inspired by those comics from the 60s.
So if they did make the third Peter Cushing film, I mean, they probably would have had Roberta Tovey as the Doctor's granddaughter again, but I wonder which other companions they would use, whether they'd reuse some of the previous ones or have new ones.
They'd have to be new, wouldn't it? Because unless you're going to get Ian and Barbara back, you're not going to get Tom back. I feel like probably new just to spice it up a bit, I don't know.
Could Leslie Phillips have been the comic relief of a third film?
Oh,
He would have been good.
ding dong. Fine. Yeah. I mean, that'd be cool.
But like Roberta Tovey said in interviews, they were the only Doctor Who films that were ever made. The 80s were full of people trying to make Doctor Who films that never happened through lack of finance. They just gave up eventually, and they were the only ones. So, good on Milton Subotsky for getting them done.
Which brings me on to my next question, because there's still talk about trying to make Doctor Who into a film. So, Dan, do you think Doctor Who works well as a film?
Yes, it does. I mean, yes, I didn't care for the first one. It just felt like a crappy episode. Fair. It wasn't the target audience because it was aimed at kids, right? The second one was more enjoyable and worked as a film. And we all know that the third film, which isn't a Peter Cushing film, but the third Doctor Who film is the McGann film, which Keith mentioned. That's worked. And it does work. It does work. I don't see why it wouldn't and couldn't.
Do you think it would have been better if they'd made these films set within the continuity of the series and tried to reuse the actors from the TV show, or do you think they went the right way by rebooting it?
I think that's hard to say. My opinion is, I think it was a good thing that they went for different, because I think that made it different, and I think that's why the films worked as films. That part of it worked. But if they had got the actors who did the TV series, would there have been more interest and more money in some way, made more and continued making them? It's a hard one for me to say. It swings and roundabouts.
I think practically it would have been very difficult to have the TV cast in the films because they were making Doctor Who in the 60s about 48 weeks a year. So the other weeks they had holidays, so there's no way they would have been available.
That's why they
I
weren't
had the
used.
energy to even do them.
That's why they weren't used.
And, of course, Peter Cushing was a named actor that they could sell the film to America on because he was known for doing Hammer Horrors. Whereas William Hartnell wouldn't have the same star appeal.
I just love the fact they went for different. It gives a fresh interpretation to, the Doctor and the companions. And that was quite revolutionary. We discussed this before. It was something very different. We hadn't seen Patrick Troughton yet.
I don't know if you're aware, but, not even just in the Dalekmania documentary, but I've read elsewhere just how many accidents there were and injuries on the sets for filming Dalek Invasion Earth. For example, in the van chase scene, the guy playing Violet Andrekia injures his wrist when breaking the windscreen. Eddie Powell, who was a stuntman, he played a few different roles, in fact. He did some of the van chase scene where it was rigged with explosives. And can you believe this? They actually put Roberta Tovey in, who was a child, in a van full of explosives and driving along. And she had no seatbelt or anything, just having to hold on. And then it was rigged to go. And the stuntman and Roberta Tovey had to leg it from that car before it exploded. You would not get that now. But even more outstanding was Eddie Powell when he's doing the scene where he's escaping from the Daleks and he's climbing over all that city landscape rubble and he falls through the awning. He actually broke his leg when he fell through that. And when you see him crawling towards the Daleks, he's in pain at that point.
He really did suffer for his art. All admiration for him. He kept going.
Amazing that he did keep going just to get that shot in.
I suppose 1960s health and safety isn't what health and safety is like nowadays. You still get injuries today, don't you? I mean,
yeah, you do.
Look at Viggo Mortensen in Lord of the Rings, broke his toe when he kicked that helmet.
Yeah,
and then they kept acting, and that guttural scream is because he was in pain. Then you have the idiot, and I am calling him an idiot, of Tom Cruise because he decided to do his own stunts, breaking his ankle in Mission Impossible. I mean, I've seen that footage. It looks painful, the way he did that. So it still happens, but obviously we've got better in the 60s.
We're very used to, in the BBC TV series of Doctor Who, the sound of the theme tune and the visuals that go with it. Obviously, this is very different indeed in the films. What does everybody think of this?
I like the music for the films, and it gives it an identity of its own that's separate from the TV series. What about you, Dan?
I unfortunately don't have much memory of the music for the films.
Like I said earlier, it's very much a jazz soundtrack on both films, really. It works for what it is. There's a lack of the title sequence, for example, which they weren't going to copy from a TV series. But it's kind of like swirling smoke and oils, I think, isn't it?
I love that opening.
I remember the visuals for the first one.
Yeah.
I like the visuals of that opening with the, on the plastic, but I can't remember anything else.
So we were talking earlier about slapstick, the Robo-Men eating, very funny. Do you think they could get away with that if they made a similar film today?
Can you put comedy in a non... Yeah, I think you can put comedy in a non-comedy film.
Could you see it in the middle of a Marvel film, for example?
I feel like, yes, you could. Because I feel like it's kind of in there sometimes. I'm not saying quite as slapstick. I'm not going, you full on 1960s slapstick.
Yeah. I mean, that was full on with the choreography as well, with the music.
Yeah, I don't think that, but just thinking Marvel being one of the big ones, you've got moments like, like the end of them, like there's got those end credit scenes, like that one where they're all like in a cafe or whatever, and they're going about they're going for shawarma kind of thing, and it is because it's just an ad-lib moment in the film further in.
Yeah.
I kind of get that. I think if there was somebody known for doing something, it'd be like a nice nod for people who know that person and know what they've done. That's what a lot of, I would say, dark comedies can be about. They can be serious. You can have serious moments, but they still have moments where, because there are funny times in life, you could still have something that's funny that happens.
Well, that's always the difference between Marvel and DC. The Marvel films have the fun, light-hearted moments, whereas DC's always serious and grim. And
for modern, we're talking 2023 period, I think you see it more in TV shows than you do see it in films, but there's no reason why you couldn't have an action film or just a serious film in general have comedic moments. I do think you still have it, and I do think you can have it.
Just as we're coming near the end now, obviously we've talked about Bernard Cribbins a lot, but there's quite a big gap between his appearances from this film and when he first appeared with David Tennant in Doctor Who. That's quite a big gap. That's just a comment.
It is a big gap.
It is, and I like it. I like the fact that it was like, oh, come back. Come back to the franchise.
Oh yeah, that
Kind
taps
of it.
into my inner nerd. Hey, he was in Doctor Who before in the Cushing films. That's cool. I always like stuff like that.
It was a one-scene cameo that they brought him back for.
Yeah, it wasn't planned that he was going to be Donna's granddad, and because the actor who played Donna's dad passed away, and they wanted Bernie Cribbins back, they were just like, hey, we never gave him a name, so then they could make it so that he was part of Donna's family.
Yes.
So in conclusion, Dani, what did you think of Doctor Who and the Daleks? How many Danis out of 5 are you going to give it?
I think it's getting my lowest score I've ever given something. I'm giving it a 1.
You've given it less than Rollerball.
Rollerball got higher because I liked the sport of rollerball. I have discussed this before. It purely got the points for the sport.
1 out
Didn't
of
you say it
5.
would have been a 0 without the game?
Yeah.
That is, damning.
Harsh.
1.
I do feel like I was being harsh, but I felt like I was being truthful.
Honest.
I was being my authentic self.
What about Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD?
My original, at the time,
Yeah.
was a 2. I'm going to take it to a 2.5 because I feel like talking about it has made me appreciate it more.
Oh, so much more. You gave it a 0.5.
Yeah, it's not getting a 3. But I feel harsh giving it a 2.
What about a
So
2.75?
2.5.
Jonathan's going to haggle to get you to...
It's not going to be a 6
2.8?
2.
Any advance on 2.8? No.
No.
Do I hear a 2.9?
I know you do not.
So before we say goodbye, Jonathan, what have you been up to recently?
I've recently watched the Tripod series 1 and 2 in about 4 or 5 evenings, and I just couldn't stop watching it. I was watching 4 or 5
Yay.
episodes a day. I remembered the episode 1 of series 1, the tripod coming down in the village and taking a person up, and that's the only bit I remember from my childhood, so to revisit it was wonderful. But I like the journey, I like the adventure the boys have, getting to the White Mountains, when they stop at places on the way, and finding out more about the tripods in Series 2. And I want to read the book to try and find out what happens to the 2 characters who we see at the end of Series 2 and what happened to them.
You know, Jonathan, there's a really good podcast out there about the tripods. They talk about the books, the TV series. I think you should check it out.
I will be.
You forgot the beach towel, John.
How can I forget the beach
That
towel?
was our running joke.
So, Jonathan, you're part of Westlake Films, where you've been making Doctor Who fan films and other films for years.
Played the Doctor, the Companion, I've played the Master, I've played quite a few things, actually, over the years.
In fact, one of the best, I think, was it's a knockout called Star Trek versus Doctor Who, where you were playing a third Doctor fan.
Oh, that was, I think, one of the most fun films that we ever did.
And we had inflatable movie Daleks in that, didn't we?
Daleks, yes. And fighting with Gareth as Kirk a lot.
Yeah, Gareth Preston is Kirk fanboy.
Who's going to guest next time, I gather, Rebecca.
Yes, so we hope you enjoyed this episode of I Don't Do Sci-Fi. Do let us know what you thought. Our social media contact details will be at the end of the podcast. Join us next time on I Don't Do Sci-Fi when we're going to be watching The Stone Tape with guest Gareth Preston. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to I Don't Do Sci-Fi. If you'd like to contact us or comment on the show, email us at idon'tdosci-fi@gmail.com, Twitter at I Don't Do Sci-Fi, on Instagram I Don't Do Sci-Fi, or on Facebook I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I Don't Do Sci-Fi was presented by John Isles, Dani Ray and Rebecca Ray, and featuring our guest, Jonathan Miles. The theme tune was composed by Steve Johnson, and the podcast was directed and produced by Kevin Hiley.
It just feels more enjoyable, and there's just more to it than the first one. It's just a lot of coming and going, isn't it? The first one, especially that expedition to go through the Daleks' back door. No. Oh dear, what have I said? I set her off. I'm sorry, Rebecca.